It is time for another episode of the Boneyard Podcast, and Coach Lonnie Jordan and I very pleased to be joined tonight by the Lake Highlands volleyball coach, Taryn Parker. And Taryn, welcome to the Boneyard Podcast. And this is on the eve of your first playoff game.
That's right.
Since you've been at Lake Highlands. You've been involved in a lot of playoff games in the past. You've played in them, coached. Big game coming up in Coppell against Arlington. So people will be most likely listening to this tomorrow. So it's kind of preparing for the game. But thank you for being with us and welcome to Lake Highlands. How's it been so far?
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been amazing from top to bottom. From the day I stepped on, it has been awesome.
Yeah. Does Coach Jordan check up on the program quite a bit and offer
very much so
a lot of advice and that kind of thing? Does he give you much feedback?
I get a lot of just pats on the back and high fives, which is right up our alley.
Yeah. Well, Coach Jordan, tell us for a little bit in a way of introduction, how Coach Parker sort of came across your radar and ended up on our campus here.
Absolutely, yeah. So this was actually, and Taryn can speak to this as well, but this was a really late hire. We lost our volleyball coach in June. I guess it was mid-June, June 17th. I was actually on the beach mat. Had my toes in the sand, and
we don't really need that image.
But I get a phone call that our head volleyball coach was leaving, and we had just. So it was really. So if you rewind even a little bit more than that, we had lost the entire volleyball staff, and it's just attrition. These things happen, and so the assistants had left. The head volleyball coach was the last one we had left, and so we had just hired her 3 assistants, who were phenomenal, by the way. But we had just hired those folks. I thought to myself, I'm on vacation, and we are officially hired up, so I can relax and enjoy the ocean and my family and all of that. Well, then I get a phone call that the head volleyball coach was going in a different direction. and so coincidentally, her leaving and my vacation coincided with the volleyball clubs were at nationals. Y'all were where?
We were in Indianapolis.
And so at this point I didn't really know what to do. I mean, there's some rules around school contracts and that sort of thing, and once you get inside what they call a 45-day window, it's really hard for you to go out and find somebody that's gainfully employed. So I started calling. Of course, we called and we're working on getting the job posted. I called down to Indianapolis. Anybody I could find down there, I said, and I had people start to look for coaches for us. And Taryn's name came across. I mean, as I'm at the beach, Taryn's name popped up, and it popped up more than once. So it was really. Now she was working at McKinney Boyd. And I know some folks at McKinney Boyd, in McKinney ISD, so we called out there and visited, and it was really, they didn't want to lose her, and so it was a process, it was a whole thing, but we were able to get some candidates to interview, brought those in, and we had some good candidates, and Taryn just. She's a great, and I think you're going to find out today, but she's a great interview.
Yeah.
She's high energy. She knows her stuff. You can tell that she was going to be great for kids. And so we felt like, we really were blessed that she was available. She was interested in Lake Highlands. And of course, Lake Highlands is a really good program, so you would expect people to be, but she was interested, and she was available, and we were able to pick her up. So, just the getting her was very difficult, but once we got her in, it was a sigh of relief, and I know that our community was excited. Our kids have been excited since day one.
Yeah. Taryn, I hope you realized how much leverage you had over him at that point and brought that into negotiating.
Yes.
That's so in Indianapolis, that's an interesting way. So you get the call, you come. Now, what did you find? What was the program like, and then what style? Because I would say every volleyball coach, they were used to being coached a certain way, and as I recall, maybe a pretty demanding style. What's kind of your approach, and how long was it before you felt, was it immediately accepted, or was it a few weeks into it when it started to gel?
Really, the beauty of it was we had a clean slate. We had a clean slate to be able to come in and just implement everything that we wanted it to be. And I think it was a good start for the girls as well. They didn't have to play bias to anybody else. They got to just come in and make it theirs as well. So I think it was great. It was a already state-of-the-art program as it was, and then we just got to come in and make it ours. Just add in a little bit of color into the coloring book for it.
And I've watched even recently some of y'all's bonding events, and it's been really cool. And I know it's neat for Coach Jordan because he has a daughter on your team. But the kids really seem to look up to you, and y'all, that's got to be neat. You've got kids, one plays for you,
Yes.
and then one's in 8th grade here in the system, and so that's got to be a lot of fun. What talent level did you find here? It's obviously been a really good program,
Yes.
but you never know exactly.
True.
You might know it's a good program, but until you get out there and see everybody hitting and
Yes.
doing everything, like what was your initial thought when you saw everybody?
Well, really, because the first time I got to see them was when we started team camp. So that's about 2 weeks before you start two-a-days. And that was the first time, every year it's a composite of returners and new players and bringing everybody together. But it was awesome. You could immediately see chemistry. You could already see the returners stepping up and taking some lead roles, and then you saw the older girls stepping in and taking. So it was exciting, very exciting from the time we got to land some eyes on them.
Yeah, and boy, 22-10 overall, 10-4 in district. If I have that correct, it seemed to me kind of interesting that you had a veteran and underclassmen, a pretty interesting mix. I know Elle is one of your freshmen. We've watched her grow up and know her family really well, but then my daughter's a sophomore. She's got at least one buddy that I can think of. Emerson is on the team. What's that been like, having that veteran leadership, but also mixing in some of those younger
I
girls?
think it's phenomenal because we also had juniors who it was their first year on varsity and everything as well. And so that just creates an awesome dynamic because they naturally gravitate to the younger ones and help them kind of transition into the next role.
All right, and then I want you to be able to brag on some of your girls. I know Miller. We probably ought to brag on maybe both Ellies. But I mean, like what,
Yes.
in terms of just overall, I think Miller is maybe a setter,
She
right?
is.
Okay, and she's going off to college to play.
She is.
What are some of the leaders that you have? Who's kind of really stepped up for you in those roles?
Well, I think each player takes on different roles. That's been kind of a big thing for us this year is knowing your role on the team and everything. And so, of course, Miller, she was ranked 8th or 9th in the country as a setter, going to play Division I at Providence. But then also we have 6 seniors as well, which bring a lot of experience, a lot of grit. We have Peyton Tompkins, who's a great outside hitter. We have Haley. The list both of our middles are juniors because we also have like some good junior returners even who carried some lead roles as well.
Yeah. I've started paying attention more and more to like college volleyball, and some of the athleticism is incredible. And we think of like verticals because we have more of a basketball background in like, whatever, 35 inches, 40 inches. Not that I ever had that, but they measure it differently with volleyball. But like, what is the athleticism on your team? Who are your biggest leapers on the team?
Biggest leapers? Ellie Jordan actually had our highest vertical this year.
How about that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say
Yeah.
that
She
again.
did. She did.
How about that, Matt?
Yeah.
I texted Coach Jordan as soon
Her
as
mom
we-
is a tremendous athlete then.
Yeah. Yes. And but of course we measure it in so many different the difference in volleyball, of course, it's only 3 minutes in between your sets. You only get 1 minute for timeouts. So it's a lot of quick bursts, up and down, side to side. So even though it's not like, say you're running the basketball court or running the soccer field or something like that, it's a dynamic athlete.
Yeah. What the Arlington game, as you get into by district here, how much scouting do you do on something like that? It's not a team, maybe you have cross paths with them, but you're not seeing them a lot during the season. How much of a scouting report do you have on them, and what have you been able to determine about them?
Me and my coaches have definitely done some scouting, but then as well as I always kind of feel like we've got to take care of our side of the net first, and control that, and then you can go, and the game plan is to counter.
Yeah. What, like, are you pretty, you come across as like so nice, like once the game start, you get pretty, I mean, are you pretty vocal?
I am.
Yeah, you were saying
Yes.
there's some, yeah, you got,
I am.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's always a time and place, but on the court, that's business time.
Okay. And then like, there's different strategies and different sort of ways to do things. Like, is your team known, like, as far as passing and that kind of thing? Like, what would be, you feel like, the strengths of this particular Lake Highlands team? Or is it kind of everything?
I think it's everything. I think we have a strong component in both offense and both defense. Of course, setter position. The cool thing when we were doing all of our stats for the season, a lot of times you'll have a hitter who is like bar above,
Yeah.
carries real heavy stats, in which we had one. But the cool thing is we had even 3 and 4 others right behind who were within 20 kills or even so, say, which just shows like we're not just a one person threat. Like there's so many dual threats out there.
Yeah. Do all of your girls on varsity probably play some form of club? I mean, this has really become a year-round type sport. And he found you in Indianapolis because either your daughter was playing there or you were coaching something there. I know that's a huge place. I mean, I'm sure that's not the cheapest thing in the world when you're kind of traveling around. Is it?
Right.
Is it kind of like, with soccer, a lot of the better players, obviously, at club soccer, has that kind of become the way across the board with volleyball? They're all on some form of club.
It really has, and especially like North Texas volleyball is a different breed. The club out here, the club scene is unreal. It's amazing. You can ask any college coach, this is the hot spot. And we have hundreds and hundreds of clubs, so it's not that if you don't make this top team that there's not a spot for you. There's so many that facilitate all the athletes around.
Yeah. Coach Jordan, you've watched the team a lot because your daughter's on the team, and so it even gives you more incentive. You would watch them anyway, but even maybe a little more incentive. What do you pick up on from this team and even in Taryn's short time here?
Yeah, so I have had the opportunity to watch the girls play quite a bit, and typically I don't. Typically it's a Tuesday night. I can make Tuesday night games, and but this year, and of course with Ellie being there, I've stepped out of some things to be able to be there, and so I've gotten the opportunity to watch them more than ever before, and I think part of that too with the new staff, you want to be there and be able to support, but I'll tell you, it's a fun group of girls. They play, man, they're high intensity. They move around well. She mentioned grit earlier. I think it's a gritty group. I think back to the Highland Park game, which is probably the coolest volleyball game I've ever seen. Certainly this year. You take away past playoff wins and things that I've gotten a chance to be a part of. Tuesday night's probably going to be the best volleyball experience of my life. But we played Highland Park this year, and Highland Park was ranked.
They're number one.
Number one in the state. Okay, number one in the state of Texas, and we took them in the first game. It went to, and forgive me, but it went extra points.
Yeah.
So it's like overtime, I think we beat them 27-25 or something like that. And so we took that set from them, and it was one of the only sets that they had lost all year
August.
long. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is set the correct
streak.
term?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we took a set from them.
Yeah.
And then we ended up losing the match, but I think every set except one went into extra points. I mean, it was just so cool to watch this team that didn't have a chink in their armor. And then Lake Highlands, I mean, we're just flying around, keeping balls alive, diving on the ground, and the girls played with such enthusiasm and intensity. It was fun. I mean, and it was, and it's different. And so I know we're all trying to kind of recreate that and find that again, but it was a lot of fun to be a part of that.
Yeah. Hearing him talk about all that, I'm a little worried he may show up on the bench tomorrow. He's
We'll
really
pull out a chair.
Okay, good. Sounds like you're welcome down there, but I like that. And boy, that Highland Park, obviously, it's a high-powered program. So to do that, boy, y'all are headed in the right direction. I wanted to give you a chance. Brooklyn, your daughter, is on the team. That has to be a really neat thing. And I'm sure you coached her in the past, but I mean, coming in, this is it. This is the first time, huh?
Yes.
What's that been like?
It is loaded question. It has been amazing for a lot of reasons. I've had to miss out on, of course, coaching on a lot of games of hers.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we have spent every minute together as well. So we kind of went from one side to the other side, but it's been amazing too.
Yeah.
And I hope someday she says the same.
Yeah. Well, she's down the hall right now. Should we go
She
get
is.
her and ask her?
Right.
Yeah. Do y'all so
Yes.
after a game, and
Yes.
Coach Jordan had this situation with his two sons coaching them, do you try not to talk about the game, or is that impossible not to, like when you're driving home?
Yeah. I try to let her lead. If she doesn't, then I try not to have those conversations, but if she does, I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, we were excited. I have been trying to get Coach Jordan to have one of the other coaches on, and he really wants to make most of this about himself. It's fun. No, we're happy to have you on. Is there anybody else you wanted to mention? Do you have any sort of unsung? We do some unsung hero type things on the Boneyard podcast. But if there's anybody else you want to brag on, now's your opportunity.
So I carried a team of 14.
Okay.
There were 6 players who had some limited play as it comes, but I would say those 6 players who are like at every single practice, they knew their role. Something that you really need in volleyball is that kind of chemistry and being able to get the excitement from the bench onto the court as well. That is something, I mean, they have a cheer and chant for every point. They're sprawling on the ground. They have all kinds of things. And that energy and everything carries over onto the court when someone makes a mistake or something, and you have, I can't do the math that quick in my head, but 8 players backing you up, So I would say it's those players that don't always get in.
Yeah.
And that's tough for a coach as well, because you want to get everyone in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's those players who prepare us for each game in practice, who compete every time, but also then know their role in games and carry that with just as much weight.
Okay. Well, they need a nickname or something, that group.
Yeah.
We could come up with something, a mosh pit. For people that are maybe listening and want to come out for the game, the match tomorrow night, this is going to be a lot of fun out there in Coppell versus Arlington. What time is it, and how could people still get tickets? Could they go to like Brushfire, or do they do it differently when it comes to playoffs?
Coppell's actual athletic site.
All right.
It's at 7. We're actually doing a doubleheader with Arlington, Martin, and Richardson. We're cheering on Richardson first as well to represent our district, and then they take on at 5:30, and then we'll take at 7.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's not cheer too hard. Let's focus on the task at hand.
Yes.
But well, this was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you being with us. We'll let you
for
go.
having me.
It's Halloween,
It
and
is.
so you need to get home and take care of all the
Pass
trick or
out some
treaters.
candy.
Yeah. Thank you for joining the
Thank you.
Boneyard Podcast.
Appreciate it.
Well, that was fun having Taryn on, and boy, Coach Parker has done a really nice job. Great hire by you. You should do most of your hiring from the beach. I like that story, and that had to be a little bit of a shock when you thought everything was done. So that is really good news. Now, I do want to catch up. This is kind of this is coming off the bye, and we'll talk a little bit about Irving, give some historical perspective as well. But how'd the bye week go, and what do you feel like you accomplished during that time off?
Well, the bye week was good. I've never had one, and I think you asked this on the podcast last time, but I've never had one this late in the season before. So it's a little bit, it's different. I mean, we've gone so long, and you're getting to that point where you're really trying to ramp things up and get ready for the playoffs. And so to have a week with no real competition was a little bit difficult. I think coaches were a little antsy, and you fear that, okay, I'm going to take some time off with the kids, and we're going to lessen some of the activities that we do. We're going to shorten those practices, and now you're worried about getting back on track. You're worried about, okay, we've got to get back to late season form in a hurry, and so that's really what today was about. Of course, we've visited with our kids, and we got a lot of things done over the bye week. It was just really kind of compressed a little bit, and so I think our kids got a chance to rest. We gave them some morning meeting times and weights off in the morning, and again backed off of them during practice a little bit. Interestingly enough, during bye week, we had an opportunity. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter or not, but the NFL has this program they do with Hall of Famers. And so they called and said, are you guys available? We'd like to send a Hall of Fame football player out to your school to have a little talk about values and what it takes to be a Hall of Famer, the type of mindset and the heart that you have to be successful at that level. And so I said, well, sure. It was our bye week, so they sent Cliff Harris.
Oh, man.
So Cliff Harris came out.
Yeah.
I had to tell our kids who Cliff Harris was, but all the coaches knew who he was.
Good.
But the kids did some research and found out about him. They called him, what was it?
Captain Crash. Yeah.
Captain Crash. So Cliff Harris came out and talked to us, and the kids had great questions for him. It was interactive. This thing was live streamed across the country, so it was really kind of cool. They did it right here in our auditorium. Well, at the end, I got a chance. We were already off video, off live stream, but I got a chance to ask while I was on stage with Mr. Harris. I said, "What was a bye week like in the NFL? When you guys had a bye week, what was that like?" And he said, he was pretty candid. He just said, "You know what? I got bored." And so my team's sitting out there, and I turned around and said, "Are you guys bored?" And they said, "Yes, we are." So I felt like it was a pretty good bye week. I mean, if that's how the NFL guys approach it,
yeah.
But we're rested. We're as healthy as we've been all year, and get an opportunity to go play at an Irving team in preparation for the playoffs. That's locked. So we're in a good place.
Glad to hear it, and what a great lesson for the players. I mean, that was, in fact, Coach Landry trusted Cliff Harris so much that he may have addressed this with y'all, but he would let him freelance within that famous defense, the flex defense. And it was very complicated, and of course everybody had to be in a certain place. But and of course Cliff and Charlie Waters, and Charlie's been a part of the Lake Highlands community for years and years, are just still to this day connected at the hip and close friends. And by the way, some of your kids who may be going to play at smaller schools and that thing is a good reminder, because Cliff Harris played at Ouachita Baptist University.
Yep. We talked about that. We talked about his time at Ouachita and how he got there, and Then I believe he was not drafted going into the NFL. Anyway, so we talked about some of those things, and I thought that was really good for our kids. But he did mention Landry's defense and how everybody had a role, and you had to play your role, you had to know your job, and it was a lot of fun to hear from a guy who's in Canton. I mean, it's he's one of the best that's ever played.
Yeah.
And a really neat opportunity for our kids.
Yeah, I'm sure now they know who Ernie Stautner was, Jim Myers, and the whole shebang. Okay, Irving, this is a team that's struggled this year. I saw, by the way, MacArthur. Was it MacArthur that almost knocked off Jesuit the other night? I mean, that was a close ball game. In fact, our own Lake Highlands kid who plays over there at Jesuit, Magoo, Noah, had to kick a field goal. Or one very important field goal in that game, and they won either 12-7 or 13-7 or something like that.
16-12, I think, was the final.
Yeah.
And my understanding is MacArthur was down in the red zone, maybe inside the 10-yard line with 8 seconds left, with an opportunity to win the game, and they threw an interception. Jesuit picked it off in the end zone to seal that game. But great. And of course it was a monsoon Friday, and maybe that affected the game in some way. I don't know, but we talked. MacArthur's got great skill players, and if you limit some of the opportunities by the other team, whether it's elements or whatever, that makes it an even playing field. So.
Yeah, Jesuit may have had their officials with them. It is the Boneyard Podcast as we continue, and so. Irving, though, as you kind of get ready, because you got to think about the playoff. Now, this isn't the NFL. You're not going to rest all your starters or anything like that. But this is one of those games you want to get the rhythm back, and then maybe play, who knows, into the third quarter, and then get some guys out of the game and keep everybody healthy. What do you kind of know? What does Irving been trying to do, and what will you at least kind of try to be prepared for?
Well, it's so going into this game, we think about all of those things, but we don't really. That's my job to think about what the third quarter is going to look like, fourth quarter is going to look like. As far as a team and even our coaching staff, it's about getting back on track. I mean, we need to get out there and we need to play our best football. Going back to the Pierce game, which was a short week, we played Pierce on a Thursday, and that short week schedule to get ready for them, we came out and we were really flat in the first half and just did not play inspired. And so now we've had a bye week and we're going back to another short week in preparation for Irving. And so we've got to make sure that we're not flat. We have to make sure that that we play our spirited brand of ball and come out and execute and dominate and do those things. And so that's what kind of we're getting ready for. As far as Irving goes, they've got some good players over there, and they've given fits. I think Jesuit was up 7-0 with 3 minutes left, going into halftime or something. And don't quote me on that, but it was really close going into halftime, or right there before half with Jesuit. So they have the ability, just like MacArthur, and they do a great job. David Munoz is the head coach. He's in his second year at Irving, and they do a great job defensively. He's gonna game plan, he's gonna scheme, and he's got enough players that he's gonna be able to give you fits on the offensive side of the ball. And so, just like most any game we've played this year, we need our defense to come out and play really well. And then offensively, we need to be able to go out and do our thing and then make adjustments to whatever his game plan is. So all of that goes into it. Hopefully, if we do what we need to do, then yes, we get some kids opportunities to play in this game. It's going to be senior night, so there's so we're going to celebrate our seniors, both football players, bellboys, cheerleaders, Highlands band. We're going to celebrate all those seniors at that game. But for me, it's important if I can get an opportunity to get a senior out there to play. This will be the last time they ever play in the Boneyard.
Yeah.
So and even your viewers that have been here before know what a special experience that is, and hopefully that'll help us get ready to play our best football.
All right, senior night at the Boneyard. Mark Frito Friedman from Frito Nation Productions wanted your take on last week. We had to be pretty quick because and efficient. We're not always as efficient. It's mostly my fault. But we had to get over to see the choir performance.
Yes.
And what a performance that was, is we even had some football players came over from a game.
Yes.
I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
Some of the Forest Meadow kids, it was a muddy, wet night, and their uniforms looked pretty clean. So I'm not sure they were really getting after it as much as they needed to.
Well,
but that was a neat evening.
Well, they do play on turf. So
okay.
there's not a lot of mud involved.
All right, fair.
But you did see some of those Forest Meadow one of the Forest Meadow players in particular had a bow tie on with his jersey. So even Miss Gilbertson brought up, she thought that was a pretty good look. But no, we had weather that night, and the game got canceled early due to lightning. So those guys were able to come out and participate in the choir concert. But I thought, man, I tell you, and you were shooting me some texts across, which I think is probably, I don't know what the word is, but I don't know if Miss Gilbertson would appreciate you texting me in the middle of a choir concert. But anyway, so as I'm reading my text, I felt a little classier when I left there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did. I felt like, maybe I don't know. I can start living a little bit differently. But they were. The kids did an amazing job. I thought they all sounded good. Ended the night with "God Bless America," so it was fun. Great job by our choir.
Yeah,
big choir concert coming up on Thursday night, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, over at DBU, and we got a lot of stuff on our plate this week, and so we'll be excited to go see that big pep rally. Mm-hmm. I've got a daughter that's been preparing a lot for that pep rally, so that'll be exciting. The last pep rally for some. I don't know how many of these they'll have. I mean, this is seniors for everything, but this is a neat for football season, and this will be a really cool thing. Okay, unsung hero award winner, and before we get to that, I do want to say a word. Wildcat Cleaners. We talked about them. Man, how awesome was that? They sponsored last week's Boneyard podcast, and then I went over there and asked for some things to be pressed, and there was one of your. A local athlete from one of the teams, Luke Smith, was working over there. That's a great group over that Wildcat Cleaners. I dropped off some stuff, and I said, hey, I'm with the Boneyard podcast, thinking maybe I might get a discount or something. Luke kind of looked at me like, no, move on about your business. But no, Luke was very nice, and so that was fun. That was great. And then Mike Black, of course, for lining a lot of that up. From Eagle Cleanup. What a tremendous job. And the reason in these, a lot of these times when you see a work site or a building site or if somebody building a home and all that stuff gets cleaned up really quickly and in a uniform manner, it's Eagle Cleanup. They come in there and they do it in a hurry. And I mean, he advertises with us, but they're honestly so popular and the word of mouth is so huge. He doesn't really have to, but he wants to support Wildcat Athletics, which is so awesome that Mike Black has been a part of this. Okay, unsung hero award winner this week. You've had some great ones here. In fact, one of them was on the sideline the other night during a game, and I got to wave at him. One of your kind of volunteer assistants, who I really have come to appreciate. Who do we have lined up this week?
So this week I'm going to get. We had, and this is a little bit different, but we're going to talk about 3 kids. I had 3 kids that moved into our program as seniors, and so that's. That's always a difficult thing when you get a senior move in who hasn't been in your program. Some of these guys haven't been in football for a year, but we had 3 seniors move in who have done an absolute incredible job. So when you take a kid that has been in another program or other programs, and then they come as an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old or whatever it is, a lot of times you have a difficulty getting those guys to buy in. They don't really know your teammates. They don't know the coaches. They don't understand the systems. There's a lot of learning. Of course, it's hard work, and a lot of times you'll lose those guys before you ever get going. And so we've had 3 guys come into our program that from day one have been just incredible from a work ethic standpoint, coachability. They're great teammates. The first one I want to talk about is Duncan Voppel. Duncan Voppel came to us from Plano East. He's a skill player, receiver. We're going to teach him a little bit of running back. I mean, he can do a lot of different things. Really good deep snapper. Duncan Voppel came to us from Plano East. His mom actually took a job down at the junior high, so he's moved in over here. And one of the coaches said the other day, man, I wish that we had Duncan in our program all 4 years. He has not kind of broken that starting lineup, but we've been able to use him on some special teams and get him in second half of games. But Duncan is, every day he comes to practice ready to go. He shows up early, gets some things done before school. He loves to be in the weight room, all the things, and then he's just a great kid. I mean, his grades are good. He's respectful to his coaches. He's great to his teammates, and people have brought him in, and I know the kids love him. So Duncan Voppel, incredible job with him. Two other guys that came to us, a kid named Dre Jackson, who's a giant of a man, and then he's got a buddy, Malik Martelli. They've kind of hit it off since they got here, and those two guys. Malik came to us from Milwaukee, and Dre came to us from Wilmer Hutchins, I believe. I don't want to, but Dre hadn't played in a year, and of course Malik's coming from out of state. But same thing with those kids. The coaches love them. They've got great smiles, great personality. Dre again, he's this giant, and he's got the biggest smile, and he's just so fun to be around. And he is blessed. I know he's blessed me, and he's blessed these coaches, and I know our teammates, love to have him here. And I'm hoping that as we continue off into the playoffs, that we can find more opportunities to get those guys involved. But they've been really good. Lastly, I want to mention a coach.
Okay.
All right, Coach. As coaches, we do a lot of things behind the scenes that nobody sees, and one of those things is laundry. And so Coach Hughes is our equipment coordinator. He's in charge of that, and so he's also in charge of putting a list together. We break it down week by week. We have a couple of coaches each week that it's their responsibility to do laundry, and it's not always their favorite thing when they see, okay, it's my week to come up. I want to Coach Anthony Pascuzzi. Coach Pascuzzi is on his third week of laundry, and he wanted to let all the staff know that he's the only one that's had to do 3 weeks of laundry. Nobody else has had to do 3 weeks of laundry. And so I thought, you know what? I want to give a shout out on the podcast to Coach Pascuzzi for just getting his hands dirty getting in there and taking care of some things that maybe aren't they aren't things that your front runner coaches would want to be a part of.
No.
So, but he's willing to do that, and so thanks to Coach Anthony Pascuzzi.
Oh man, the selfless Pascuzzi.
Oh, that's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you may recognize him on the sideline. Very soft-spoken guy down there. Kind of keeps his thoughts to himself. And but no, we love Coach Pascuzzi. That is really one of the big upsets this year. He's a very well-known and established defensive coordinator in Texas high school football. I did not know he would be an unsung hero award winner. Congratulations to Coach Pascuzzi. He'll love that, won't he? Golly. Okay, and by the way, Coach, and I'll give you one last, if you've got one last thing you want to say, I did want to give a little historical perspective. Glenn Gant, who, by the way, sent you some, and I had some too, some hot sauce. You want to hold that up so people that watch our thing can see it? And apparently his mother-in-law does this, cans it. Red Dog, small batch salsa. So happy. I know he was concerned I wasn't going to give you that because he thought maybe I'd keep it for myself, which I did think about doing. Irving High School's first season to play football, Coach Jordan, 1913, was discontinued through the First World War. Now, we won't go through all the decades here, but Irving ISD added MacArthur and Nimitz high schools within the decade, starting like kind of in the 60s. And limited history here. This is the 7th time the Tigers and Wildcats have met on the field, and Lake Highlands holds a 5-1 record Let's not let this get away from us, okay? We're doing well. And 2-0 since joining as a district opponent. And they started, I like this, Glenn gives us some good historical perspective. He said, just as the battle was being waged between Q102 and the Zoo in Dallas, in came the Cats and the Tigers, and they faced off during the second week of the season in non-district play from 1980 to 83, and that 83 team for Lake Highlands would be the final class that overlapped the campus with the 81 state title team that y'all celebrated just a couple of weeks ago. And the Cats dispatched Irving 26-13, which not only avenged the upset from the year before, but also extended a 7-game win streak from the middle of the previous season. And Coach Johnson's squad was talented with all-Metro defensive lineman Roderick Duffy, who would sign with Baylor. Defensive backs Derek Reed went to SMU, Frank Toll, New Mexico State. And while the offense saw offensive lineman Roger Smith go to Michigan State, tight end David Earhart went to Notre Dame, and the halfback Sammy Van Dyke to Arkansas, and then Swiss Army knife halfback wide receiver defensive back Trey Kimbrough, who went off to Texas Tech. So, and by the way, he updated your record after coming off in the last game of the regular season. For your career, Coach, you are 6-2. You can dispute that if you'd like. In final regular season games, going back to 2014 season, in which you sealed the district championship for Lone Oak in that last game of the season.
How about that?
Do you remember anything about that game?
I remember that Lone Oak season was pretty special. It was my first year as a head football coach, but it was a great season. I didn't know enough to. Of course, we had to win the game, but I do remember that I wanted to be able to present a ball to them at the end of that game, and so I was rummaging through the field house at Lone Oak, and I grabbed an old gold ball, and I just put athletic tape over the top of it and wrote on there with a Sharpie, 2014. 6-3A, I think, district champions, and then we presented that after the game. With athletic tape on it. But no, I did not know that stat, and Glenn's proven to me that he knows a lot of stats that I don't know. But I appreciate him looking that up. That was fun.
Yeah, Glenn, big supporter of Lake Highlands athletics. His brother was a big time player at Lake Highlands back in the day, Brian. So always fun to do all that. All right, final thoughts. We get ready for Irving, and then it's on to the playoffs, and it'll probably be that following Friday. I don't know if we've narrowed anything down more, but it looks like that'll be South Grand Prairie for sure, right?
Yes.
And we won't look too far past that. I think you said at one point Prosper was maybe, but we won't jinx it with too much talk about that. So any last thoughts as we head into last game of the regular season, and then of course we'll be excited to react to that and get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, no, so we're ready to get going. It is, again, for you guys out there that are listening, we do play on Thursday, so it's the last, it's the last home game of the year. It's the last time our seniors will get to play here. It'll be fun to get to recognize those guys before the game, and so Thursday night ball game, and then we'll start Friday night. Coaches getting ready for South Grand Prairie. That game will be at the I think they call it the Warrior Gopher Bowl in Grand Prairie. It'll be a 7:00 kickoff on Friday, and I think that's November 11th. So that one's set.
Okay.
But we got to take care of Irving first,
Yeah.
and we're excited about getting a chance to do that.
Man, that's interesting. Right in the belly of the beast over there, huh? With South Grand Prairie gets to host that thing. We'll be okay. I mean, even that Highland Park game, Lake Highlands traveled great in that game. So I think the fans will.
And so interestingly enough, I mean, the reason we're playing there is because of the Jesuit game. So you go back all the way to whatever that was that was week 4. So week 4 determined ultimately our playoff site. We lost that game by 1 point, which made us third. We've got that locked up, so we'll be third in our district. We're the number 1 school, big seed, so we're the number 1 seed, but we finished third in our district. Well, South Grand Prairie is the number 2 big school seed, but they finished second in their district, and the home field advantage written by the UIL is given to the higher district finish. So had we beaten Jesuit and finished second, we would have been flipping for home and home or a neutral site. But the fact that they finished second, we finished third, we've got to go play out there. But it's fun. It's a fun stadium.
Kind of down, isn't it? Kind of almost underground.
It kind of sits down in a bowl.
Uh-huh.
The stands are right on top of the sidelines. It's one of the tightest fields I've ever been on. Very similar to Highlander Stadium out there in Highland Park. As far as just the players will be right. Their backs are going to be up next to whoever's on the front row. So
wow.
We talked about that. You know, we need to make sure that we get up on them and stay up on them so that our fans stay nice to us, since we're going to be right there next to them throughout the game. So that's whatever it takes to motivate us. Yeah. So we're working on that, but we're excited about it. Irving this Thursday, South Grand Prairie next Friday, November 11th.
Okay. Well, thank you, Coach. It's been a lot of fun. We'll do it again next week. And there's been some talk on perhaps we might end up on a patio somewhere. So we'll see how this unfolds. You never know where you might be able to see the Boneyard podcast. For Coach Jordan and Mark Frito Friedman and Frito Nation Productions, I'm Matt Mosley. Good night from Lake Highlands.